As we end the program today, we have two very important and special guests. The first is our Chancellor, Chancellor Randy Woodson, who is really one of us. He is a plant scientist. He was in administration and agriculture, a dean of agriculture at Purdue University, and now is the Chancellor at North Carolina State. And he's got some remarks for the group. Chancellor?
So, you look exhausted. Has it been good? Well, we're proud to have all of you here, and I know I wanted to be here yesterday, but got called away to Washington. We're excited that the College of Ag and Life Sciences decided to put on this summit. You know, the work that we do around the country related to food and agriculture has never been more important. It's never been more visible. It's never been a bigger part of the national lexicon and part of even Wall Street. You know, so people have discovered that somehow we got to feed all these folks. And production agriculture is the way we're going to do that, and we have to be thoughtful about it. So, you know, one of the things, I know some of you are from out of state and not associated with North Carolina. That's too bad. No, I'm kidding. But I will tell you that one of the great things that we're very proud of in the state is that we have a great university, a great land grant tradition, a great College of Ag and Life Sciences, an amazing agriculture sector with over 90 commodities. But we also have some of the world's leading technology companies headquartered here in RTP, and a couple that are headquartered somewhere else. I was just talking to Don Nelson from Monsanto. So, you know, a couple that have their homes other places, but have, you know, a little shop here in Research Triangle Park. So we feel like as a state, with the intellectual assets that we have and the corporate assets we have, that we're in a real position to lead a national effort, particularly around the plant sciences, focused on improving yield, improving abiotic stress resistance, and other key attributes that will ensure that we can produce crops going forward. So we're excited about the efforts going on here and around the country, and really proud that you all assembled here to have this conversation. And I'm glad to at least be able to say thank you for participating and for being here. My real reason to be here is to introduce to you one of the real treasures of America, and someone that has done so much for the state of North Carolina and the rest of the country, and that's former Governor James B. Hunt, Jr., a graduate of this great institution, agriculture through and through. In fact, met his bride at National 4-H event. She was a 4-H'er from Iowa, and she's still at home today making sure those cows are taken care of in the cold weather. This is cold, by the way, in case you didn't realize that. So Governor Hunt was the first North Carolina governor to be elected to 4 consecutive 4-year terms, and is the state's longest-serving chief executive with 16 years in office. He always understood, that the people of North Carolina need a quality education, and that education is the critical path forward for our state. Governor Hunt was a tireless leader in elevating North Carolina around the country as a technology center. The Microelectronics Center was his brainchild. The North Carolina Biotech Center was his brainchild. NC State Centennial Campus was his brainchild. And it's a real difference maker for us to have a campus, not only with the physical aspects or assets of the land, but also the ability to develop it through public-private partnerships that frankly are unique around the country in public higher education. So, you know, there are a few people in the world that actually can see the future. I'm not sure I'm one of them, but I'm confident Governor Hunt is. And we're proud that he was in a position at a critical time in our state's history to put in place many things that today are proving to be a real difference maker for our economy. One of the things that Governor Hunt always advocated for, because he always read about developmental psychology, and he understood that if children were given an opportunity to begin to learn early in their careers, before school started, that they would be more successful in school. And so he started a program called Smart Start, which actually has been a model across the country to help young people across our state get prepared for learning in schools. And he's been recognized for his innovations in education by the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard and the Ford Foundation. He's provided education leadership as the chairman of the National Education Goals Panel. He served as a board vice chair of Achieve Incorporated and chaired the National Center for Public Policy in Higher Education. And today, he continues to work as hard every day advocating for the things that are important for our state and our nation, and in particular for education. So please join me in welcoming Governor James Hunt.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chancellor. I want you to know that having my chancellor say all those nice things about me will not go to my head. I have help at home with that. I remember one time, I don't remember which term it was, they all kind of blur together. But we went somewhere, Carolyn and I did, and they gave me this great big award, said all these great things about me, you know. And the trooper was driving us back to the governor's mansion. We were sitting in the back seat. I remember the moon, it was a full moon, Larry. Moon shining down. We were sitting there riding along and very quiet. And finally I leaned over, I said, honey, you know there are few truly great men in this world. She thought about 5 seconds and said, yes, big boy, and there's one less than you think. In any event, Chancellor, thank you so much, and we're so fortunate to have you as our Chancellor. The man came from Arkansas. He was up there at great Purdue, and what a great chancellor he is. And I want us to show our appreciation for our chancellor. We are so proud of him and don't want him to leave us anywhere. I'm tickled to be with all of you, Dean Linton and all the folks that helped put this together. I know that Dr. Carbonell and Secretary Tolson and President Edgerton and others have been a part of it, but you all have been the ones who have been here throughout 2 days, giving your ideas, learning, thinking, imagining, and I want to commend you for doing that. You have come up with some new ideas. You're thinking about them now. You'll go home with them. I suspect you have developed a stronger commitment to use biotechnology for our needs here and around the world. I had the experience of working a couple of years in the little country of Nepal between India and China, working in the capital, but out there where the people lived in the villages. I know what their life is like, and I know how much it means to have enough food. I've been excited about biotechnology for a long time. I grew up in eastern North Carolina on a farm, by the way, where I got up this morning mighty early and it was cold as the devil. Carolyn were out there, I was out there putting out big bales of hay. We were out there treating a hurt calf. But growing up in that eastern North Carolina, and I always lived there when I was governor, I Well, I lived in the mansion. I spent most nights in the mansion, but I went home on weekends. Drove that pickup, fed those cows. I used to put out 5 big bales a day. I did have somebody help me Monday through Friday. You know who had it Saturday and Sunday. In any event, that's the way I sort of look at things a lot. And I remember growing up on that farm, and I remember starting to take vocational agriculture. And I learned from we call them agriculture teachers, and from my county agents and others, a lot of things. At that time, we were just getting excited about hybrid seed corn. There are only a dozen of us in this room that remember when it started. But I do, and what an exciting thing it was, Dean. You've heard about it. You're almost too young, too. And we like that youth. I remember about putting fertilizer on. Good Lord, when I was working for the Ford Foundation in Nepal as an economic advisor, I would fly out on an old DC-3 to the eastern reaches of Nepal. We'd buzz the grass landing strip to get the cows off, then land that plane. And I would walk 13 miles on foot back into a little village at the foot of the Himalaya Mountains. I flew right past Mount Everest every time I went. And I remember introducing chemical fertilizer to those Nepali farmers who were right just above subsistence in their living. Then here at NC State, I was excited about the fantastic work being done by our scientists. And that extended over to my appreciation for the farmers in this state all over North Carolina, and I know them in every county, and the agribusinesses. So when I became governor, I personally gave support to activities to increase agricultural production using new scientific ideas and approaches. I trusted the scientists. I was excited about their work. A lot of them here in this room today. I knew and was excited about the new things they were coming up with all the time. I remember being supportive as governor of what I was told at the time, I think it's true, was the first planting and growth of genetically modified plants out of doors. Some of you may check on me, but that's what they told me, Larry Wooten. This is the first time this has ever been done outside of a greenhouse or some contained area. And our people wanted to do it outdoors. A lot of people didn't think that was a good idea, as you might imagine. I expect the European community would have had a fit if they'd known about it. We tried it out. Here in North Carolina, I supported it as governor, and a lot of people did. And it's worked. That's the kind of part of the tradition that we have. Genetically modified crops, in my opinion, have done much good in the world because I've seen a lot of hunger and despair. And on the whole, they've done great good, and thank goodness for the people who've done it. At the end of my first term, the scientists that worked with me on a science advisory council were getting the idea about biotechnology. And after consulting with a lot of people and thinking with them, the kind of thinking you're doing here today, we decided to create the North Carolina Biotechnology Center. And you had the leaders here as you began this two-day session. Most of the funding came later on, but that's when we started it back in 1984. I remember being personally excited about the exploding possibilities for biotechnology in my last 2 terms as governor during the 90s. In fact, we used to have the Emerging Issues Forum. Many of you have been to them. The one next year, by the way, is going to talk about where are the best possibilities for future growth and development and job creation. I remember, because at the time I worked with the deans, Mr. Chancellor, they set the agenda. We did it together. And I remember that we had a whole Emerging Issues Forum on biotechnology. We learned a lot. We got excited. We got so excited that the next year we had another one. The only time we've ever doubled up. But we had that much to learn and to think about. So I'm very pleased to see the great focus at our North Carolina State College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, working with the Biotechnology Center, is placing on all of this. And I'm very pleased that all of you have come. I don't know all of you in this room. Back in the days when I was governor, I'd have known most of you. But I like you. And I appreciate your work. And I know who you are. I know the kind of communities you live in. I know your background. I know what you're capable of. So here we are at the end of this meeting, when I know that you've discovered new possibilities for biotechnology in agriculture. Wish I could have been here the whole 2 days. I'd have learned a lot. I have found during my lifetime that leaders, and you're all leaders, need to do 2 things. They need to constantly be learners, learning what you're doing here. And they need to constantly be teachers, teaching the people with whom they work. And of course, you have, in this 2 days, learned about new technologies, new possibilities for your professional work as scientists or developers or extenders, businessmen and women, farmers. I could go on. So that's the kind of the technical work, maybe we might say. And I want you to do that. I want you to throw you've learned so much, you've got so much here. I want you to extend that out to people. That's what extension's about. I love the fact that in land-grant universities, we do research, we do teaching, and then we extend it out to the people who pay for it, who need it. And you all do that in your various ways. I commend you for it. But I want to suggest that you do a few more things now as the important leaders I know you to be. 1, I want you to share, and this has been said, I bet you 3 dozen times in this meeting, but I want you to share with the people out there, most of whom are urban or suburban today, the importance of agriculture. Agriculture is the most important industry in our country, in my opinion, and I believe we can prove it. We need to tell people that. Share that with them. They used to all know it because they grew up on farms. They don't know it today. We need to continue to tell them and share with them some of the interesting and exciting things that make it so productive and so important. Second, I want you, and I'm talking about the people now. I'm not just talking about the farmers you work with or the people in agribusiness or something of that sort. I'm talking about the citizens, people in your church, people in your neighborhood, people who are perhaps far afield from agriculture per se. And I want you to share with them the potential of biotechnology to help us throughout the earth, to feed people, to do good. Most of us are in a church on Sunday mornings. We know what Jesus said about feeding people, and he did it. With biotechnology, we can have more food to feed people, and we should have a commitment to feed them. There are moral things to be considered, and we ought to think about them, and we ought to do them. And because you know so much about this, you can make it interesting and get people's imagination and their support. We can create a better world, and we should. Second, I want to urge you to support education that acknowledges and embraces scientific knowledge. Now you may say, well, of course. Well, it's not quite so simple nowadays. We must not, in North Carolina, like is beginning to happen in some areas around this country, let the ideologues of the right or the left dominate our public debates or our school classrooms. You should be prepared to act and to speak, to write letters to the editor, to speak to school boards, to legislative committees regarding scientific facts and the possibilities they provide. This business of the know-nothings stopping science education should not prevail in North Carolina. And it's not just up to the politicians to make it happen, one party or the other. You, the citizens, should care about that. And I want to tell you folks, I've recruited more industry to North Carolina with everybody else than any governor in history. I know what the companies are looking for. Of course, a good place to live. Beautiful green areas, the coast and the mountains, and clean air and water and all that. They're looking for good schools. They're looking for great universities. They're looking for people who will learn science and can think and be logical and see the future, as we sometimes say. I hope that you will be a force in that. Be a part of it. Not just your day job that pays you money. Be an active citizen. Help us be the kind of state we ought to be. Third, I want to urge you to support public funding of education and science. Public funding, you and me funding it. Some people oppose funding of the North Carolina Biotechnology Center, and they've heard it. Some people have thought we ought to cut way back on the funding of our universities in North Carolina. I hope you follow that in the newspapers. You should. We've had some sharp cutbacks, and some people want to do even more. These people don't understand the process of economic development and job creation, but you do. You know that this is the heart of it. The great scientists here, the importance of what they do and the companies that come from it and the jobs that are created, and they spread all over the state. They make our farmers more productive. And using biotechnology, we can grow crops with less water, maybe in salt water. But you have to have funding. Then you'll have private funding, but we have to have public funding of these things. And those people who say all we need to do is cut hell out of taxes are wrong. And some of those people are in both parties. But you need to think about that, and you need to be a part of doing the right thing. Excellent education in science research is absolutely key to our future. Basic research in America is done in universities. I don't know how many of you know that. I've been to Japan 25 times. Most of them recruiting industry. I've been in the companies. I've been on the floors. I've been in the research areas. You know where the most research is done in Japan? In companies. You know where it's done in America? In universities. And we are better. There's a little time when they got ahead of us, Chancellor, but it didn't last long. In fact, I remember one year I was leading a trade delegation to Japan, and I took a book that had just come out, Professor Vogel from Harvard. He'd written a book that said, Japan as #1. I carried that book over there. I showed it to the Japanese leaders. Oh boy, they smiled. They thought that was great. And it was for them. A couple of 3 years later, maybe 4 or 5 years later, I went back on another trip. Professor Vogel had written another book. And the title of that one was Come Back. And he talked about the research triangle of North Carolina, meaning he talked about this university and our other universities and the work that all of you do. That's what we do here. That takes funding, takes wise use of funds, and boy, we use it wisely here and in our other universities. So I want to urge you to speak up and to lobby as citizens for the work here in agriculture, the greatest industry, and biotechnology. Don't let the know-nothings or the believe-nothings prevail. North Carolina's history and its progressive heritage is seen in our schools and our colleges and our universities and the work of you here at this summit. Because of it, we have made great progress, and biotechnology is today one of the largest and most profitable endeavors in North Carolina. You in this room can make great things happen. I'm talking about going forward now with your new knowledge and understanding and inspiration. You can make great things happen. What's in your mind and in your heart that you've gained at this summit can help make our good state of North Carolina all that it can be, all that it should be, all that it must be. Thank you and good luck.
I hate that I have to follow the chancellor and the governor. That's not an easy thing. That's not an easy thing to do. Let's thank you very much for your remarks, Governor and Chancellor. And I'll end the day with a Governor Hunt story, because it's a good one that I don't think you've heard before. When I was appointed to this position, I was sitting in my office at Ohio State, and I received a letter in the mail. That letter in the mail said on the outside, Dean Richard Linton. It's the first time I saw it. It was pretty cool. And I got it about a day or two after the appointment. So I opened up the letter. It's a one-page postcard. It says, Governor Hunt. I said, is this the Governor Hunt? And it said at the top, congratulations on your appointment. I've read so much about you, ... And then it said, there's much work to be done, and this is what you got to do. And then there was a bulleted list, and the font got smaller, and you went on to the other side of the note card. I have that note card in my desk as an inspiration. And I thought to myself, it got to me so fast, a day or two after the appointment was made, he must have FedExed it. But then I came to know the governor. He didn't FedEx it. He wrote it. He found the postman, ran after that postman and said, you got to change your route and take this to Columbus, Ohio. But I think the message that Governor Hunt was saying holds true here today. Congratulations, North Carolina. We are great in ag biotechnology. We are great in agriculture and life sciences, but there's much work to be done. With that, I thank all of you for a remarkable 2 days. Safe travels home, and go Pack. Thank you.